You are listening to Armchair Healthcare, a podcast on pills, placebos, and policy.
Hi everyone, welcome to Armchair Healthcare. Nat is on paternity leave right now.
Congratulations, Nat.
Yeah, unfortunately he's too busy to send us any pictures or anything because, he's probably just like having no sleep and freaking out right now because there's an actual human being that he's in charge of.
But please note we are taking this opportunity to publicly call you out, and we are expecting a photo very soon.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. So filling in for Nat is the brilliant Brianna, and she will be joining us actually permanently as we now have the equipment that allows us to have more than two people.
So this should be fun.
Yes. So anyway, Alex Azar, head of HHS, wants to make pharma companies disclose the prices of the drugs in ads.
On typical drug ads, they usually read off the whole list of adverse events that you really don't listen to because they read it off so quickly. Do you think that's how he's expecting it to be read off?
Well, I mean, I think people will notice the number, and they're not read off so quickly. I mean, they're almost kind of funny. Like, this may cause hysterical blindness. Like there's just all these like horrific, side effects that they put in the ads. But people will notice like, hey, this costs $12,000 a month or whatever. And so, of course, pharma doesn't like it.
Of course.
And they're saying, well, what if we just show a link to a website where they can get information on prices? Because God forbid they advertise how much these things actually cost. I mean, that's really the only reason they're able to get away with the price gouging that they're doing is because nobody knows how much anything costs. I mean, and that goes for the hospital sector as well. You go somewhere, you just don't know. It's like the only industry in the entire economy where this happens. We've said this multiple times before.
Right.
So I think this would be a step in the right direction, and people will be like, wow, that's expensive.
Right. Even if you don't take the drug, you see the commercials
Yeah.
on TV all the time. It'd be really interesting to see what the actual cost of them are.
And it's funny. I saw one pharma person quoted as saying it would be a violation of their First Amendment rights. Like, that's something that they might bring up. It's like, no, they're a regulator. They can make you disclose things about your product.
Right.
I mean, that's like a normal thing. Like, they can make you disclose toxicities. They should make you disclose the financial toxicities of your product. And then, who knows? Maybe we'll see some price competition or something. Well,
Did you say financial toxicities?
Yes, financial toxicities. It is. I mean,
It is.
You just look at how much Medicare is costing us. I mean, I know drug prices are only a part of that, and obviously the increase in drug prices is only a part of that. But still, I mean, it is hurting our budgets. I mean, if you go to like the CBO's website and you look at the long-term budget outlook, it's always horrific, and it's always centered around Social Security and Medicare.
Right.
And that's just the way it is, and we need to get a handle of it. And pharma, of course, doesn't want us to get a handle of it because they really benefit from really just this making everything so vague. And then other people, some policy experts were like, well, it's meaningless to give the retail price because nobody pays it. Well, that's not really the important thing. And the important thing is for people to know how much the system is paying for something.
Right.
One way or another, they're paying for it. So they should know. That's the whole point. So anyway, so we'll see where what happens with that. One person, I think it was Jeff Porges, he would expect actually just a lot fewer ads from the pharmaceutical company on TV, which is very possible. And look, I don't mind that.
No.
And anyway, so I am all for Alex Azar and his push. Hopefully he is successful. So in other healthcare news, and this just came out today, the day we're recording it. So Novartis bought ECYT for $2.1 billion. Now, this might not sound like a lot because some of these recent IPOs have been at higher valuations and they just have hype lines. And these guys have, a phase 3 drug. But so ECYT bought the drug that Novartis is buying them for $12 million a year ago. and it's a radioligand that targets PSMA in prostate cancer. Now, the data that they had was good, but it was from a single center in Germany. They bought it from a private German company. We've seen a million times single center phase 2 trials not do well in phase 3. And so I think this is really risky. And then also PSMA has been targeted so often, and so often have we had promising phase 2 data, and it just doesn't work out in phase 3. It's been a very common target for like at least the last 15 years.
Right.
I've seen, and also in just a variety of different modalities. Like this one's a radioligand. I've seen just regular monoclonal antibodies. I've seen antibody drug conjugates. I'm not sure why this one would work necessarily better. Also, you have to keep in mind, because it's a radioligand, there's radioactivity involved that involves getting nuclear medicine specialists involved when you give the treatment. So Bayer has a drug called Xofigo in prostate cancer, which is also radio labeled. I can't remember exactly what the target is, but it got approved and it does have pretty decent results. But I mean, it's a $400 million peak sale drug, and probably going to end up being safer and less expensive to give than this drug that Novartis just bought. So I mean, paid $2.1 billion for something that, even if it works, probably have $300 million, $400 million in sales. I don't know. It seems quite expensive.
This isn't the first radiopharmaceutical drug that Novartis purchased. So last year they purchased Lutathera from Advanced Accelerated Applications, and they purchased that for $3.9 billion.
Yes, yeah. So they, they're definitely making a move in this area, which is kind of interesting. They're getting out of CAR T or something and getting into this kind of good old fashioned radiation.
Yes.
We'll see. I mean, this still won't be the dumbest thing that Novartis has ever done. I mean, they did pay Michael Cohen $1 million, right, for consulting.
Yes.
And which was just ludicrous. But anyway, in terms of healthcare, it's actually been a relatively quiet week. So I'm going to go a little bit off into the nether. Although there's something that is healthcare related, is the Elizabeth Warren genetic test.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I mean, she's now at least one part out of 1,024 Native American.
It's pretty small.
Yes, I mean, I did Ancestry DNA, and I came out with, I think, just some less than 1% Indian, but from the subcontinent. But I don't go around like claiming that I have any actual like Indian heritage. And she did. Like, I don't want to get political on the show, but she was listed in when she was at Penn and Harvard as being a minority professor.
Right.
And she's more white than like Ivory soap that was 99.44% pure. Like, yes. She's more white than that. Oh. And like, she's not minority. It's just come on, and just move on, stop claiming it, and we could talk about real issues or something. And then since she was also at Harvard, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about the ongoing case where Asian Americans are suing because of discrimination in Harvard, and really across the Ivy League. It's not just Harvard.
You tweeted that really interesting chart from that article, I believe.
Yes, and I'm trying to find it right now. I mean, they did this whole like simulation on what their racial makeup would look like under various admissions criteria.
So they looked at like academics, they looked at athleticism.
Yeah, like academics, if they were
legacy.
Yeah, academics, legacy, personality scores.
Yeah,
like all this kinds of stuff.
I don't even know how they would score personality.
I mean,
on paper
through the interviewer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like I do alumni interviews for Penn, and then I don't remember if there's like a personality thing, but you kind of you do like verbally say like, what's your general impression of the student, and be like, oh, this person's like crazy, or this person's whatever.
Have you ever interviewed a crazy person?
No, they've all been very nice. They're all nice kids, and it's just shocking though, because so I think the vast majority of the people that I interview for Penn are actually Asians, and I'm always shocked how many get rejected. I mean, and these are people who are like so much better than I was when I got into Penn in terms of, I mean, these people are writing for like, they're in high school, they're writing for literary magazines, you know, they're like, have their church group, they're tutoring, they're doing like a million things, working their butts off, and they're extremely mature. They're as mature as like some people in their mid-20s, like when you talk to them, and it's just shocking, and the bar is so high. It's
extremely high and just getting higher and higher every year.
And so according to the analysis that Harvard did, they said if it was academics only, 43% of their freshman class in the year they did it, which was I think 2013, would have been Asian. And in reality, it was 18%. So more than half of the people who kind of academically deserved to go to Harvard who were Asian were rejected by the admissions office for one reason or another. I mean, I don't think they were like, oh, you know, we don't need so many Asians. But there were like factors that in their admissions process, which seems to disadvantage them. And there was a report that they did internally that just wasn't even forwarded on. Like, they weren't even interested. And I don't know why, because it's not like Asians are a minority that don't have historical discrimination in the U.S. There is historical discrimination in the U.S. And they also, like, the Asian immigrants who are here have had to deal with pretty horrific things. Like, I mean, really comparable to the Holocaust. You know, Chinese immigrants might have been fleeing Great Leap Forward, you know, the Cultural Revolution. You got Cambodia, you know, Pol Pot. You got, you know, Vietnam had concentration camps. You got the Korean War. You got all that stuff. And then, you know, they come here and then they get discriminated against after working hard. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. No, it does not at all.
And like, so like it did offend me when Penn did file like an amicus brief in Harvard's defense. Because it's like, come on, guys. Like, let's just, I mean, they did the same thing to Jews like 100 years ago. Like, oh my God, we might have too many Jews if we just let people in on academics alone. What would happen? Anyway, I'm sure all of this makes more sense than the original German.
I guess it'll be really interesting to see how your interview process goes this year when you...
Oh, it'll be the same. Nothing's going to change.
Really?
Yeah. And another thing that annoys me is that the Wall Street Journal had a report on this like a few years ago that Penn spends 8 minutes per application.
It's crazy because these kids, and like I was one of them at one point, you put so much effort into that college application for someone just to like ixnay you in 8 minutes. It's just...
I know.
It's not really fair.
No, it's not fair. And then also, I mean, just the alumni interview, like I spent a good hour with these kids.
Right.
And then I wrote a report and all this stuff. And then like someone just kind of glances at it and probably half reads it or doesn't read it at all. And sort of like, what's the point? I mean, I'm going to continue doing it because, you know, I do like doing it.
Yeah. It's nice to give back. And
yeah,
you do.
Exactly.
You love your school.
Yes. I am a Penn Quaker to the core. I wouldn't mind us changing the mascot, but actually it's kind of fun being a Penn Quaker, like the Fighting Quakers. Does that make any sense? One thing that's been kind of annoying me with the financial markets is the IPO market.
Yeah.
It is really, really insane. You know, for example, they're talking about Uber going public at $120 billion valuation. And I just don't see how you get there. First of all, they don't make any money. They're not expected to make any money in 3 years. Like, sure, they're popular and they're in mainstream culture. Like, oh, I'll just get an Uber. I'm sure that if you price something that's popular, like if you priced your beer at like 10 cents a bottle, it would be really popular.
Of course.
But you'd be losing money on each beer. And that's exactly what Uber's doing. They're losing money. They're not going to be making money for a long time. And then also, I just don't understand how... So they raised money at like $60 billion just a few months ago. And now they're talking about going public at $120 billion. Like, where's the value that they added? Actually, no, they raised money at $76 billion in August. So what's the value add between August and October, $76 billion to $120 billion? Did they beat on revenues and earnings? Did they do better than expected? I mean, it's just like the greater fool theory over and over and over and over again.
And then its competitor Lyft, I believe I read that it has a current valuation of $15.1 billion.
Yeah, it's probably losing like 1/8 the money. That's why Like if it lost more money, it would be doing better.
Got it. Okay. And I don't even think this Uber valuation includes their like other affiliates, what they do. So I know they do Uber Eats, and they also, I forgot what it's called, but like Uber can basically, you put it into your phone like, oh, I need someone to pick up this. I forgot what the actual term is called.
I'm trying to look in the article if it mentions it. It does mention Uber Eats, and I think Uber Eats might be in their valuation, but I don't even know.
I think it's 20 billion, they said, just for Uber Eats. Basically, Uber Eats is something where you can pick whatever you want in the city or wherever it is, and someone goes and gets it for you and delivers it.
How is that different than like Seamless?
Some restaurants aren't on Seamless.
Oh, so basically Uber just means you have like a gopher.
Yes.
That will get, so I don't know how that's economically efficient at all.
And that has competitors as well, because I believe Postmates is another app that is not Seamless, or Grubhub, and that's also what they do.
You know, they did these exact same models back in like 2000, and I just didn't understand. Like I remember one of my coworkers would be like, oh, I just ordered one beer from this company, and they're delivering it because they don't have a minimum or whatever. It's like, you know, people will just abuse it, and then the companies will. It's just not economical. Why would you do this?
Right.
I mean, I don't even understand Blue Apron, for God's sakes.
Oh, no, me either.
It's like, okay, so they give you all the ingredients, and then you cook it. Why can't you just go to the grocery store and get it and save a lot of money?
This generation is just used to convenience and the online world.
And not just like, I know I'm often accused of sounding like a dad because I am, but this makes no sense. It's like, have people lost their minds? Like, first of all, a lot of these people are living with their parents or are subsidized by their parents. No offense if there's
none taken.
But so it's like, well, you know, maybe you wouldn't need your parents if you actually saved up some money and not wasted it on like pretending you're some billionaire that can just like ask a slave to go get you like a candy bar from someplace.
Exactly. No, I agree.
It really, and honestly, it is just insane. Look, but the pendulum, it does swing both ways. It's gonna revert. It's just, you know, in the meantime, the bankers and the VCs will be making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then saving up. So like, even if they're locked out of the market for 4 years, they'll be fine.
Of course.
It's just like, you know, the poor schmo who actually buys Uber at $120 billion valuation. I mean, seriously. Look, it's a really nice service. It did liberalize like kind of the New York system very nicely. You didn't have to take a stupid yellow cab, you know, with those like really expensive medallions. So, you know, it allowed drivers to basically just be free agents, not have to be working at a cab company, not have to have a stupid yellow cab.
Yeah.
It allowed people really the flexibility, just instead of having to wait on a street corner, you know, to hopefully a cab drives by to actually order it. Right. So it's a really nice service, but
I've been a loyal customer since 2012 or
when did it start?
13. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it became popular when I was in college and I was living in DC. Okay. So it was very popular for us. But at that time, only black cars were driving.
Sure.
So I believe they charged like $12 a ride, flat fee. Like if you only if you went like.
That's pretty good.
It was fine, and like it was a really nice car.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit more expensive than that, but I just remember that's how it started, and I like kind of felt safer, and it was easier for me to get around like late at night than waiting for a cab. So
yeah, no, but I think if anything though, people are overusing Ubers. Like I know I've heard of parents having Ubers pick up their kids from school.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you don't put your kids in a stranger's car.
No.
Rule number 1: if you don't know them, don't let them pick up your child. They can be like an axe murderer, like literally, like what, you know, moms say on TV. They can be an axe murderer or something. Literally, that's what they could do.
I was actually in State College last weekend, and I was going to the football game, and we ordered an Uber to get there. And our Uber driver was very nice, and he told us that there was I believe he said that there was someone posing as an Uber driver, picking up people who they weren't supposed to pick up. So this person was not an Uber driver claiming to be one, and then like police were looking for him and stuff like that. So there are liability issues.
Yeah, and
with the
there's
service.
No way for Uber to really check so much.
They do background checks.
Yeah, but like that doesn't mean anything.
Not really.
And I'm sure there's people who will like put their friend's name on it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how do you know that person's the real person? It's just, I don't know, that there's probably a lot more liability for Uber than it realizes, and obviously a lot more downside for investors if anyone's buying it at a $120 billion valuation. I mean, seriously, what do you think your upside's going to be in 5 years? Do you think it's going to be $1 trillion company? You know, Uber, this thing that just picks up people and takes them places, or in other cases picks up food and takes it places,
or picks up anything. It's like a courier service they also have.
Yes. And you know, we have other ones. We have like local ones. You have like whatever. I mean, the only reason they are doing well is because they're losing money. And people make the comparison to Amazon that, well, Amazon lost money, but not really. They usually are break even, or better. And so if they have profits, they reinvest it, but they're not like losing a ton of money. And also Netflix right now, yes, Netflix is, you know, I think in the last quarter, they had more than $600 million in cash flow from operations, negative cash flow from operations in the quarter. But like I was looking at their numbers from 10 years ago, they were profitable, cash flow positive. They were even buying back stock.
Right.
I mean, and it was a nice, well-run conservative business. And, you know, I mean, now it's like something else because I don't know. I guess it's just everyone's insane. Everyone piles into the same stocks, the same companies. Like, oh, I own Uber. Did you own Uber?
Right.
So anyway, it's like, look, when people are losing their heads and they're doing stupid stuff, you probably should think twice and maybe do something else.
I don't know. We didn't talk about cellular therapeutics delisting.
No, yeah. So yeah, Immunocellular finally delisted.
Finally.
Well, it's been kind of a clunker for a long time. I remember doing some work on them like 8 or 10 years ago, and they were like nowhere, and they're still nowhere, and they had some bad data, and they just couldn't raise any money. And I think there was a little scandal around them too at some point. They're basically like a Northwest Bio, but just actually a Northwest Bio with a cleaner balance sheet. You know, I don't even know how Northwest Bio is still like living. They have some debt due in like August. They never really talked about if they never announced if they paid it or not. Who knows? I always look forward to their queue. But no, I mean, Immunocellular was another one of these. I think it was just like a dendritic cancer vaccine company.
Yeah.
You know, Dendreon, they really helped kind of that whole industry do well for a while because they were able to get approval and only later go bankrupt.
Right.
So anyway, anything else that we should talk about, you think? Yeah, I mean, ESMO's coming up soon. Yeah. So there'll probably be a lot more for us to talk about next week.
Right.
And that should be pretty interesting, although it sounded like people have relatively low expectations. And I think Adam Fierstein even mentioned how like one company's kind of completely avoiding talking to him about their presentation. Like, oh yeah, we're busy at ESMO, and then we're traveling. Sorry.
Yeah.
Really good sign. Yeah, so great. Thank you everyone for listening, and please be sure to subscribe and leave a review for us on iTunes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Our theme music is by Hazard.